The galaxy thought Earth was dead, silent, erased. Until someone pressed the wrong button on a dusty archive, and woke up the fleet humanity forgot to tell anyone about. The galaxy thought Earth was finished. The ruins of humanity's homeworld were catalogued, archived, and filed away in neat alien libraries as a lesson in overreach. Entire lectures were given about the folly of humans, the apes who burned too brightly. That certainty lasted until one bored alien archivist pressed the wrong key. The dig site floated in the dead orbit of old Earth, a cracked shell of a planet. From above, it looked like a marble dropped on stone, fractured and dim. Around it, the Consortium Archaeological Corps maintained its proudest outpost, Station Durox 7, a kilometer-wide cylinder of lights and arrogance. Inside, scholars from 20 worlds bickered about artifacts. Broken satellites. Rusted hulls. Things unworthy of galactic attention. Dr. Velrix, a feathered scholar from the Lure Dominion, tapped at a dusty console salvaged from an underground vault. The device flickered faintly, glyphs crawling across the dark screen. Primitive code, he muttered. A child's toy. Humanity was clever, yes, but not subtle. Careful, said another, a gray-skinned Solari technician. Primitive toys sometimes explode. Velrix scoffed, wings rustling. What could it do? Call for reinforcements? Their species is long gone. He tapped the enter key with an idle claw. The console hummed. A ripple of static surged through the station systems. Every light flickered, and for a moment, the void outside seemed to listen. At the far edge of the room, a human cleared his throat politely. Captain Elias Rourke had been sitting quietly, sipping weak alien tea that tasted like boiled moss. He wore a simple uniform, black with silver trim, marked only by a faded insignia from a fleet that no longer officially existed. The aliens barely acknowledged him. Humans were tolerated here as relics themselves, a curiosity that survived in scattered colonies. Elias had been invited as a token witness, nothing more. He set the teacup down, smiled faintly, and said, I do hope you know which button you just pressed. Velrix turned, feathers bristling. Do not interrupt scholars, human. This is beneath you. On the contrary, Elias said, folding his hands behind his back. This is very much about me. About us. The console emitted a low tone, 3 notes, repeated, sharp enough to rattle glass. The Solari technician frowned. That's not standard code. That's structured. It's calling something. Elias raised an eyebrow. Structured, yes. Ancient, yes. But not standard. You'd call it military. Station Durox 7 quivered as if something outside had awakened. Sensors across the decks lit up in warning colors. Ships in nearby orbits reported sudden bursts of encrypted signals. Velrix stepped back from the console. Impossible. This system is dead. Elias chuckled softly. Dead? No. Sleeping. He walked closer, his voice even, polite. And you've just shaken it awake. The alien counselors in the chamber hissed in unease. A towering reptilian officer growled, Human, explain yourself. With pleasure, Elias said, adjusting his cuffs. His calm tone carried a razor edge. What you've accessed isn't a relic. It's a lock. And you, feathered friend, just turn the key. Outside, in the shadow of Earth's shattered moon, something stirred. A silhouette faded into being, vast, angular, wrong against the stars. Its hull was blackened steel, edges sharp like broken glass. Panels unfolded like wings, glowing faintly blue. The ship had no markings, no allegiance visible, but its very presence radiated menace. The Ghoststorm had stirred. Inside the chamber, alarms screamed. Holograms displayed the impossible. A vessel decloaking, dimensions dwarfing even the largest consortium dreadnought. Velrix squawked, feathers puffed in panic. It cannot be. These ships are myths. Humanity never had such power. Elias smiled thinly. Myths are simply truths told by those who didn't survive to argue. The reptilian officer slammed a clawed fist on the table. Deactivate it. The Solari technician scrambled at the console. I can't. The system's overriding us. It's ignoring commands. Elias leaned closer to the officer, his voice low, amused. That's the thing about codes written by humans. They don't care about your approval. They only care about intent. The massive ship outside rotated slowly, scanning with beams of pale light that reached across the void. Smaller signatures flickered into existence. Half a dozen, then a dozen, then more. They emerged from shadows like predators uncurling from sleep. Velrix's beak clicked nervously. What are they responding to? Elias sipped his moss tea again, grimacing at the taste. They're waiting for orders. From whom? The human set the cup down with a quiet clink. Why, from me, of course. The room erupted in chaos. Alien voices clashed, languages overlapping in panic. The hologram now showed a growing formation, ships aligning into precise, lethal patterns. Their hulls shimmered like ghosts, engines pulsing with restrained fury. The reptilian officer snarled. You knew about this. You orchestrated this trap. Elias tilted his head innocently. Trap? Oh no. We humans are far too polite for that. He let the silence stretch a heartbeat. Then his smile sharpened. We call it preparedness. The console beeped again. Lines of alien unreadable code scrolled endlessly. Across the station's comms, a voice emerged, not quite human, not quite machine. It echoed like wind through bones. Awaiting directive. The Solari technician's skin turned a pale shade of fear. It recognizes only human input. Elias gave a polite nod. Naturally. Why would we let anyone else command our ghosts? The first of the Ghoststorm ships lit its weapons. Silent arcs of power shimmered along its flanks. The station trembled under the weight of its awakening presence. Elias straightened his uniform, adjusted his cuffs, and addressed the panicked chamber. Now then, esteemed colleagues, I suggest we discuss terms, before my fleet grows restless. The council chamber of Station Durox 7 had descended into pandemonium. Species from 20 worlds argued in overlapping voices, clicks, growls, and melodic tones clashing into a wall of panic. The holographic display dominating the room showed the impossible, a fleet of blackened ships assembling in the void. Not drifting. Not chaotic. Forming ranks. Dr. Velrix clutched his feathers, eyes darting between the console and the image. This is coordinated behavior. They're communicating. The Solari technician's hands shook as they danced over the controls. Every channel is encrypted. I can't break it, I can't even read it. The towering reptilian officer bared his fangs. Human. His voice cracked through the chaos like a blade. Explain these phantoms. Elias Rourke stood with the same calm expression he'd worn since this began. He clasped his hands behind his back, shoulders relaxed, posture casual, as if he were strolling through a park on a Sunday morning. They're not phantoms, Elias said mildly. They're assets. Yours truly had a hand in their programming, long ago. Velrix's feathers puffed in disbelief. Impossible. Humans lacked the sophistication for such complexity. Elias tilted his head, smile faint. You keep using that word, lacked. And yet, there they are. Outside the station, the largest of the ships shifted. Panels unfolded, releasing a pulse across the void. The pulse wasn't destructive, it was a signal. All around Earth's grave, more ships bled out of shadow, hundreds now, each one sliding into formation with mathematical precision. The Solari's voice cracked. They're not activating at random. It's a cascade protocol. Each ship calls the next. It could spread across sectors. Elias nodded approvingly, as if grading a student's homework. Very good. You've just described Phase 2. The reptilian slammed his fist into the table. Shut them down. By all means, Elias said with a polite wave. Do try. It will be entertaining. Alien crews scrambled. Entire wings of technicians rushed to isolate frequencies, jam transmissions, deploy countercode. Every effort collapsed in seconds. The consoles blinked, error messages rolling like laughter. The Ghoststorm fleet ignored them. One of the newly awakened ships shimmered, and then vanished. Sensors screamed, showing a blurred trail before it reappeared thousands of kilometers away in less than a heartbeat. Velrix's beak clacked in terror. Faster than light without a gate? That's cheating. Elias supplied helpfully. Yes. We were very good at that. The chamber's doors burst open. A squad of armored alien soldiers stormed in, weapons drawn, claws flexing. Their commander barked, "Arrest the human. He is the trigger." Elias glanced at them, expression unreadable. Arrest? My word, that feels rude. I'm only here for the tea. The soldiers advanced. The Solari technician reached out, whispering urgently, "Wait, he may be the only one who can stop this." Elias gave a small, courteous bow. A fair point. The console beeped. The eerie, bone-chilling voice returned. Awaiting directive. The soldiers froze. Everyone in the chamber stared at Elias. Velrix hissed. They're listening to you." Elias shrugged lightly. "I suppose they always have." In orbit, the flagship of the Ghoststorm fleet extended its wings fully, energy rippling across its hull. Other ships echoed the motion like predators synchronizing before a hunt. The formation wasn't random. It was a battle line. The reptilian officer snarled. "This is war machinery. Humanity planned this. You were preparing an ambush even as you died." Elias's smile never wavered. "Died? No. We simply left a message. A reminder." His gaze sharpened. "And a trap, if we're being honest." The soldiers hesitated, their weapons trembling. The Solari whispered, "Captain, if you can control them, please, deactivate." Elias tapped the table gently with 2 fingers, as though setting rhythm to music. "Deactivate? My dear Solari, if someone wakes a sleeping lion, does one politely ask it to nap again?" The technician swallowed hard. The fleet outside shifted once more. Dozens of ships simultaneously powered weapons. Their hulls glowed faint blue, lines of energy running like veins. One of the alien fleets patrolling near the ruins panicked. A captain of the Proudfang species ordered a preemptive strike, launching missiles toward the nearest Ghoststorm vessel. The chamber's hologram magnified the exchange. The missiles streaked toward the dark ship. Without moving an inch, the Ghoststorm vessel released a ripple of distortion. The missiles froze mid-space, their engines sputtering uselessly. Then, one by one, they turned around and flew back. The Proudfang ship vanished in a silent bloom of fire. The chamber went silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Elias's voice broke the silence, light as a whisper. "That, colleagues, is what we humans call return to sender." Velrix's feathers sagged. "This is genocide machinery. You built this to erase civilizations." Elias looked at him, expression unreadable. "Erase? No. Correct." The AI's voice returned, louder this time. "Directive required. Target acquisition pending." All eyes in the chamber turned to Elias. The reptilian officer growled low. "You command them. What are your orders?" Elias tilted his head, lips curling faintly. "Patience. They've waited centuries. They can wait a few more minutes." He walked slowly to the viewport, staring out at the growing storm. Hundreds of ships aligned in silence, each one a blade in the dark. He sipped his terrible tea again, grimacing. "Honestly, you'd think after all this time, the one thing we'd have left behind would be better coffee." The aliens didn't laugh. None dared. Elias turned back, eyes calm, voice like velvet over steel. "Now then, shall we begin discussing how much your governments are willing to pay to survive the storm you've just woken?" The chamber lights dimmed as if the room itself were holding its breath. Across the council's viewing hall, the holographic projection sharpened into something sharper than mere light, a vision of the fleet that should not exist. Jagged silhouettes of warships shimmered against the void, their forms outlined in storm-white energy that licked across their hulls like lightning caught mid-flash. "Impossible," whispered High Regent Vaith, her 4 eye stalks trembling. "No registry. No signals. Those are dead signatures." Commander Lyrak flicked his tongue nervously. "Not dead, Regent. Worse. Ghosts." At the center of the projection, a single human vessel held position like the conductor of an orchestra, calm and patient. The Odyssey. Its presence radiated quiet confidence, but the storm surrounding it, those impossible phantom dreadnoughts, was the true terror. And then, as if on cue, the human captain stepped into the council's line of sight. Captain Elias Mercer, hands neatly clasped behind his back, stood inside his command bridge, looking every bit the calm bureaucrat. His uniform was plain black, trimmed with faint silver piping. Nothing about him screamed warrior, yet nothing about him suggested anything less. He smiled faintly, and every alien in the hall flinched. "Council representatives," Mercer began, voice smooth, as if addressing a polite dinner party instead of a galactic tribunal. "I believe we have unfinished business." Vaith snapped. "What sorcery is this?" "Those vessels were purged in the collapse war millennia ago. No fleet could survive that long." Mercer tilted his head slightly, like a teacher humoring a particularly slow student. "Correct. No ordinary fleet could. Fortunately, we never specialized in ordinary." The council chamber erupted with overlapping voices, hissing, trilling, buzzing in confusion. One alien, a crystalline envoy from the Corwin, clicked sharply. "They're illusions. They must be." Mercer tapped his console. One phantom dreadnought pivoted with predatory grace and unleashed a silent pulse. The projection captured its beam, carving an asteroid clean in two, the fragments scattering like shrapnel. "Holograms rarely vaporize stone," Mercer noted pleasantly. The room went very still. From the corner, Elder Churks of the Madar leaned forward, his voice soft but heavy. "You awakened them. The Ghoststorm fleet. We buried records, we sealed warnings, yet you dug into the ruins." Mercer didn't deny it. "We had incentives. Some civilizations collect art. Others, debts. Humans? We collect contingency plans. Think of it as a rainy day fund. Only, instead of coins, it's an armada wired into a codebase older than your recorded history." A younger alien delegate snapped, "This is madness. You jeopardize the entire balance of—" Mercer cut him off with a smile so mild it bordered on paternal. "Balance? You mistook humanity's silence for absence. We were never gone. We were listening, watching, preparing. That tends to confuse neighbors." The delegates shuffled uneasily. On the Odyssey, Lieutenant Mara sent Mercer a quiet update over comms. "Ghoststorm sync is at 80%. Once we hit full alignment, they'll notice." Mercer's eyes narrowed, but his smile never faltered. "Good. Let them. A storm isn't feared until it touches ground." Back in the council hall, Vaith slammed a claw against the platform. "This is coercion. You bring ancient weapons into our council as though to threaten us." Mercer spread his hands in mock innocence. "Threaten? My dear Regent, these ships were designed for defense. They defend humanity's survival. Now, whether that defense appears threatening to you, well, that's a matter of perspective." A ripple of sardonic laughter spread through human observers stationed at the edge of the chamber. Their mirth only unsettled the aliens further. The crystalline Corwin envoy buzzed sharply. "Why reveal this now? Why not remain hidden?" Mercer's eyes gleamed with a dangerous kind of honesty. "Because you poked too hard. You assumed we were fragile. That assumption needed correction." The projection shifted. Data streams scrolled across the chamber walls, outlining ship classes once thought myth: Stormborn carriers, Phantom lances, null-wave corvettes. Each bore the mark of impossible engineering, war machines that shouldn't exist in any sane galaxy. Elder Truex whispered, "Those were outlawed for a reason. They bend probability itself. Weapons that fire before detection. Shields that collapse energy states. They make war meaningless." Mercer inclined his head politely. "Exactly. Humanity prefers to make war meaningless. Saves time." The casual phrasing landed like a hammer. As panic simmered among the delegates, Mercer allowed silence to do its work. Humans knew silence was a blade. It cut deeper when wielded sparingly. Finally, Vaith found her voice. "What do you want, human?" Mercer clasped his hands behind his back again. His tone was calm, professional, even courteous. "Simple. Recognition. We've tolerated centuries of polite exclusion, derision, the Council's refusal to grant us standing. Yet in the background, you circled our systems like carrion birds. You forgot something critical. Humans write endings. Ours. And others." The phrasing chilled the chamber. Some delegates recoiled. Others scribbled frantic notes. Lieutenant Mora's voice came again in Mercer's ear. "Sync complete. Ghoststorm fleet is fully awake." The projection rippled, then stabilized. Every phantom dreadnought turned in perfect unison toward the Council chamber's main feed, as if their faceless hulls saw the delegates directly. Lightning arced across their frames, each pulse echoing like thunder. The aliens flinched. Mercer's voice lowered, smooth and deliberate. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce our contingency. They were asleep. We woke them. And now, they are listening." The Council broke into chaos. Delegates shouted, guards scrambled, alarms flickered. Some screamed for sanctions, others for retreat. Amid the noise, Elder Truex did not move. His gaze stayed locked on Mercer. "You've set a storm loose that you may not control." Mercer offered him the faintest bow. "Control is an illusion, Elder. But storms? They answer to those who know when to open the sky." His smile lingered just long enough to be remembered, and feared. The chamber shook with the weight of voices, alarms, and fear. Delegates scrambled, claws and tendrils clattering against polished floors as guards shouted conflicting orders. The Ghoststorm fleet's silent image hung above them all, every dreadnought poised as though waiting for a command. Through the noise, Captain Elias Mercer stood calm, hands clasped behind his back, the faintest curve of a smile on his lips. He waited until the chaos began to collapse into strained silence. Humans had always been masters of waiting for the exact second when silence became unbearable. Then he spoke. "Order, please. A storm may be loud, but clarity is quiet." The phrase cut through the chamber like a clean blade. One by one, voices died away. Vaith, still trembling but regaining her composure, hissed, "If this is blackmail, human, it will not stand. The Council will never yield to coercion." Mercer tilted his head slightly. "Coercion? No, Regent. This is revelation. The Ghoststorm fleet exists, awakened, aligned. Your perception of power has shifted. My role here is simply to help you adjust." The crystalline Corwin envoy snapped, voice cracking with static. "Adjust? You parade weapons of forbidden design before the galaxy and call it adjustment." Mercer's tone softened into something almost playful. "Think of it as perspective. You've built centuries of order on the assumption that humanity was quaint, manageable, harmless enough to mock at galas, exclude from strategy, place at the children's table of history. Now the table has turned." From the Odyssey's bridge, Lieutenant Mara's voice reached him through the calm, fleet-forming attack posture. "They're not just awake, Captain, they're eager." Mercer's gaze flickered toward the projection. Rows of phantom dreadnoughts shifted formation with terrifying precision, stormlight arcing between them like connective tissue. He replied softly, "Eager storms are the most convincing. Let them posture." The chamber doors slammed open. Armed guards rushed in, weapons humming. They froze when they saw the projection, colossal silhouettes staring back. One god muttered, That's not possible." Mercer regarded them mildly, as if greeting late guests. "Gentlemen, you'll forgive me, but if you're considering firing, do understand. These ships are linked to probability engines. Every shot you imagine taking, they've already counted it. Statistically, you are irrelevant." The gods lowered their weapons. Elder Techarwax's gravelly voice rose from the shadows. "You want more than recognition. Speak it." Mercer nodded once. "Correct. Humanity does not seek mere acknowledgement. We seek correction. Boundaries have been violated. Treaties ignored. Resources siphoned under the guise of protection. You called it oversight. We call it theft." He gestured slightly toward the dreadnoughts. "The Ghoststorm was designed for reclamation. You stripped Earth's colonies, you mined Luna's dark side, you plucked signals from Mars like scavengers at a feast. We allowed it. We let you believe we were too weak to respond. That miscalculation ends tonight." The room chilled. Vaith tried to sneer, but her voice wavered. "You can't possibly think you'll hold the council hostage with..." Mercer cut in with a softness sharper than any shout. "Hostage? No. That would imply you are vital. This isn't a siege, Regent. This is a demonstration. Humanity doesn't hold hostages. We hold conclusions." At his signal, the projection expanded. The chamber filled with live feeds, planets under council authority, colonies bristling with defense stations, orbital yards. Each image now showed the same thing: Ghoststorm ships hovering just outside atmosphere, stormlight licking their hulls. Delegates gasped, some collapsing into seats. Lieutenant Mora's voice again: "All units in position. Every world they took from us, covered." Mercer nodded. "Excellent. Show them." The dreadnoughts tilted in eerie unison. A low thunder-like pulse rolled through the chamber speakers as the fleet fired not at cities, but into empty space. Each blast bent probability, collapsing energy waves into dazzling arcs that vaporized debris, rearranged asteroid belts, and carved patterns of fire across uninhabited void. It was not destruction, it was proof. A casual display of power too precise to misinterpret. Mercer addressed the whole. "You see, if we wished conquest, you'd already be ash. But humans are pragmatic. We prefer leverage to rubble. This display is your reminder. We've already calculated your every countermove. War isn't an option. Compliance is efficiency." The Corwin envoy's crystalline body crackled with dread. "What do you want us to do?" Mercer's smile widened. "Return what was taken. Recognize Earth as sovereign, with equal voice in your council. Cease encroachments. And above all, stop pretending humanity is furniture in your grand hall. We are architects, not decorations." For a moment, silence. Then Vaith spat. "If we agree, you'll withdraw this storm?" Mercer leaned forward slightly, his tone dropping lower. "Withdraw? Regent, I think you misunderstand. The storm is not leaving. It is anchored. You will never know when it's overhead. You will never hear it approach. You will simply live under its shadow, and remember what happens when humans are cornered." The alien delegates shifted between fury and terror. Some hissed protests, others whispered concessions. But none dared deny the reality of the fleet. Elder Hfy finally broke the tension. "This was never about awakening relics. This was always a trap. You lured us with ruins, waited until we pressed, and then unleashed this." Mercer allowed himself a genuine nod. "Astute. Humanity doesn't spring traps out of desperation. We build them carefully, patiently, centuries deep. You assumed the Ghoststorm was forgotten. In truth, it was waiting for a stage, and an audience." A final feed lit up, Earth itself, blue and white, serene. Around it, faint silhouettes shimmered, more Ghoststorm vessels cloaked in orbit. The planet that the Council had written off as weak, fractured, silent, now guarded by a nightmare fleet. Mercer's voice carried the weight of inevitability. Ladies and gentlemen, Earth was never defenseless. We let you believe it was. And now, your belief has ended. What remains is choice: adapt to the new reality, or be erased by it. The chamber filled with the thunder of silence again. Finally, Vaith collapsed into her seat, muttering, "We'll draft terms." Mercer inclined his head, courteous as ever. "Excellent. Humanity appreciates cooperation. We're quite civilized, until provoked." He gave the faintest smile, then added almost conversationally, "One last note. Should you consider betrayal, remember, storms are patient. And ghosts, even more so." "On the Odyssey," Mara whispered, almost reverently, "they're broken, Captain. They'll never look at us the same." Mercer allowed himself a quiet breath. "Good. Let them remember. History is rewritten not by words, but by storms." The Ghoststorm fleet pulsed once more in perfect unison, silent lightning across the void, before fading back into the depths, leaving terror, awe, and an unshakable truth in its wake. Humanity was no longer waiting.